The third and final talk from me this afternoon is around that last challenge we discussed at the top, is demand, the increase in demand, and how organisations can hopefully tackle that. So first off, what's causing that increase in demand? Technological advancements. So the new channels that pop up every other week, it seems, online forms people can fill out, mobile apps. There's a lot more avenues for engagement now, and they only seem to be increasing. So if there's a way someone can communicate with you, they will. Even if you're not monitoring it, if it's a new channel, they'll try and get in touch with you. So you've got to be across that and have the team in place to support it. Expanded service offerings. I mentioned previously around lack of engagement because people aren't talking about the services they provide. Obviously, when you do start talking about them, you'll start to get an influx in messaging around that. Is this something that I can benefit from? How do I sign up for this? Is this available in my area? So the more you do, I suppose, grandstand about the services you offer, the more engagement you'll get around that and more demand across your team. And then these last two are fairly linked. So this is around increased awareness for members of the public when it comes to their rights and responsibilities and the role that public sector organisations take in things like societal challenges, social and political movements, environmental issues, people getting in touch with you to say, how can they take part? What can they do to help? What are you doing to address all of these issues or concerns? We have a few examples here. So when it comes to local gov, I think last year they had around 4,000 queries around the council tax rebate. The survey we sent out for the year just gone, that's increased to about 4,000 a month. So with the cost of living crisis, a lot more people are getting in touch with councils around getting a bit of money back for their own pocket. And that's because of a bit of an issue in terms of that demand and the team to support that. Like, how do you hire enough people to deal with that significant increase in messaging? For healthcare, again, cost of living crisis, we've seen a surge in increase of strikes, whether it's doctor strikes, nurse strikes, lack of staff at facilities. My local GP was shut down about 3 weeks ago by the CQC because they weren't able to support all of the people within my area. I'm very fortunate that I don't really contact my doctors ever. I don't really have an issue, but when I do, I just call for an appointment. But now that they're shut, I've tried to contact them like 3 or 4 times to find out like who supports me now, like where do I go if I do need an appointment or if I'm sick or I need to get a prescription. And you can imagine that's the case for everybody within my local area. So that's obviously a massive increase in demand that they wouldn't normally be used to beyond the usual like booking for appointments. And then finally, blue light. So I know Kirsty talked about the interactions we have now, the expectations people have for that instant response. And that's quite a pressing issue for our public sector when it comes to blue light. So emergency services, policing, fire and rescue, NHS, included in that as well to some degrees, that people want that immediate response when they get in touch with you and they expect it. And they've kind of been spoiled, where the private sector, so places like Amazon or Sky, like my internet provider, very quick on live chat. So I then expect that kind of interaction from whatever organisation I'm dealing with. And I get a bit annoyed when I don't get it. So how can we reduce demand? So enhance the communication channels that you already have. So I mentioned previously around how teams can deal with different levels of demand based on the channel. So a phone call will tie you up, whereas live chat, social, you can manage a couple of those at any given time. And it's beneficial to do that because, I say, a phone call ties you up, and I would never really go for the phone if I can avoid it. I don't like talking to people on the phone. But some people need to communicate through that channel. Some issues, some queries can only be handled through a phone call. So make sure the team are available to take those phone calls as and when they need to by leveraging the other channels you have access to support on and push a bit of demand that way. Be a bit more proactive with the communication you publish. So if you know there's a key issue coming up or you're ahead of the curve in terms of a topic of conversation that's going to increase the demand and the messaging, go out on the channels you have access to, publish some content out there, signpost to the information to try and get ahead of the curve and try and prevent that demand. I mean, we talked about people not going to your web pages even though they're there. You're still going to get people messaging in, even though you've done your best to make that information as public as possible. But hopefully you can take a chunk out of the demand coming in by putting as much out there beforehand as you can. And then finally, a bit of a buzzword these days, AI and chatbots, but using some of the technology that's available to deal with that demand. So the frequently asked questions, the topics and the conversations where if it gets through to a member of the team, all you're doing is giving someone a link, pointing them somewhere else where all the information they need is already there, they just haven't found it yet. Let some AI, chatbot, virtual agent deal with that for you, so you have time to focus on the more important and the more urgent issues as and when they pop up. So how Orlo can help? We have a chatbot across live chat, which is a channel we provide within the inbox, as well as Facebook and Twitter direct messaging. And the idea is it's what we call an FAQ bot. So based on the incoming question or message, the bot will respond with whatever it thinks is the most appropriate response from a list it has available. That can also include a link, so if you need to signpost people to a particular page or a form to fill in. A lot of the councils we work with have a lot of questions around bin collection usually. My bin hasn't been collected. There's a pothole that needs filling in. When is my bin collection? It always seems to be bins and potholes with the councils that we talk to, which obviously can be a bit boring to deal with on a day-to-day basis when all you're doing is saying, like, here's a link to our waste management page. Like, there's everything you need on there. Have a bot deal with that so it can just deflect those conversations away. So me and my team can then handle the things that need a little bit more attention or do other work outside of that social demand within the organisation. We have what we call push mode within the inbox. So this is a way to automate conversation assignment to available agents. So rather than having to sit there and look at maybe hundreds or potentially thousands of messages, which can be very overwhelming, we can reduce that view so you're only seeing 5, 10, 15 that you have been assigned to deal with. It also gets around, hopefully no one has to deal with this, but the idea of cherry picking with the conversations. So no one's sat there going through all of the easy social engagements and leaving the more tough ones, I suppose, or the more interesting topics to their teammates to pick up and take the burden of. And we could also do it based on subject matter expertise as well. So we have something called triggers within the tool, which can automate a lot of that inbox interaction. So whether it's if a message contains a certain word, assign it to this person or team to deal with. I'll use bins again. If it contains bins, chances are it's to do with bins and waste management. So let's just tag it automatically. So we can report on that after the fact and save the team a bit of time from having to sit there and manually tag things based on that. We can also alert you to conversations and engagement as well. So whether it's a social interaction from a specific individual, an MP, or just a VIP in your area, if they've messaged you directly or talked about you, you can be alerted either in-app, via email, or through something like Teams or like a third-party tool. And then being proactive, so using the channels you have available. We mentioned earlier, we've just added Nextdoor, so that's another channel where you can put content out to signpost people to information, to share the good news stories, to get ahead of the curve of any like upcoming demand increases that you foresee based on something you know is coming down the line, but the members of the public don't yet.